I've already had friends lose their jobs to AI, and it's only going to get worse from here. In the next few minutes, let's take a look at what housing looks like when you have AI taking over jobs and not creating new ones in the process. Now, artificial intelligence is unlike any other paradigm shift that we have ever seen. In the past, when new technologies were created, it took humans in order to work with the technology to create more prosperity for society. With artificial intelligence, however, you have a system that is adaptable enough that when a new creative outlet is invented, artificial intelligence can immediately adapt and start working on that new problem. At least in the short term, it looks like we have a system set up where several high-level people will still be required in order to implement AI in a way that is productive, but those few people are going to be able to do the jobs of what used to take 5, 10, eventually 100 people. In the past, it had been the case that you put people out of work in one sector and a new sector's created. When those new sectors are created today, it's not going to be people that fill those positions. Now, when we look at housing is one of those things where it is a fundamental human need for us to have shelter. If we create a society that does not have enough jobs for everyone to go around, rent is still due at the end of the month. And we have never had a serious discussion as a society of how do you make sure people are able to house themselves if they don't have anything productive to contribute to society. Now, productivity is what I think we need to start looking at here when it comes to how to reward people in a post-AI society. Productivity in the past has usually been centered around what product you produce that is necessary for human survival or the thriving of the human condition on a physical level. However, with artificial intelligence taking over significant sectors of human workflow, the one productive thing that seems left is human connection. When it comes down to it, community seems to have an inherent value that artificial intelligence is not able to fully replace. So one way we might reward people in order to help them pay for certain things like rent and bills is to just assess how much community they've built and spread around themselves. That being said, this is not a skill set that everyone has inherently in their core fundamental principles as a human being. So we still have a problem here where there is not enough work to go around that's productive in order to make sure that everyone has housing. Now, one of the interesting things in the United States is that there are approximately 6 empty homes for every homeless person in the United States. And rather than solve homelessness, which would fix a societal issue that everyone has a problem with. Homeless people don't like being homeless, for the most part. And just regular people don't enjoy homeless encampments when they go about city life, or even in rural areas that have homeless populations. It is a net negative to not solve the issue. In other countries where homelessness is much more alleviated, it's been found that it costs significantly less for a society to just give housing to homeless people. Because homeless people are such a burden to a system that it ends up costing more to put a Band-Aid on the issue than to just fix the issue at its core. One of the biggest problems when we've tried to tackle homelessness in the United States in the past is that we made what are called projects, where we took everyone that was struggling and put them all in the exact same area. And guess what? When you put a bunch of people that are down and out all together, you get generation after generation that is growing up in an environment not full of the best role models to help curb the issues that created the problem in the first place. Solutions to this have been proven to be effective, where you disperse and spread out homeless people. That being said, that has issues as well. But what we're looking at with artificial intelligence is different. We are going to take one of the most well-educated generations in history and get rid of all of their jobs. We are going to take the generation that was raised on iPads and cell phone and smartphones in their hands from the time that they were infants, and we're not going to provide them opportunities when they join the workforce. This is an issue unlike any other that has been faced in the entire human experiment. We need to come together here and figure out a way to make housing a human right in a world where work is no longer feasible for the average person. One thing that we might want to consider is that in the past, up until this point, it's generally been considered a fundamental goal in life to establish yourself and purchase your own home. That might still be something that we can strive for. That being said, that is not how the current younger generations have lived their life. I have many friends now that do not have aspirations to own their own home. In fact, they enjoy the process of renting because it allows their life to have a level of flexibility that if they were locked down in real estate, they wouldn't have. When we're addressing this housing crisis that we will face as a society together, we might want to consider just giving out housing that is not individually owned, but that society recognizes makes society better to have housing available for these people. One thing that we need to consider when it comes to housing is the issue of limited housing in the most desirable areas to live. We need to figure out some sort of credit system that allows for people to compete for housing where supply is limited. This might come about in some sort of social credit mechanism where you reward people for building community. Imagine that if you are a community builder, someone who allows people to do the things that they enjoy doing, you are guaranteed housing in an area that you are building up. This could be a way for us to eliminate this crazy burden that we've seen in cities like San Francisco, where people in the service industry commute for 2 hours each way in order to get to their job that pays them almost nothing. Right now, San Francisco has a majority of their work as service gigs. Yet it is not feasible, unless you have very rich parents, to live in the city when you're doing the work that the city requires in order to sustain itself in the way that we want it to be. San Diego is very much the same. New York City is the same. Chicago is the same. Every single city relies on service people to build the community the social experience that we want to spread. This is not going to be something that artificial intelligence replaces. Even when artificial intelligence can do restaurant work with robotics eventually, there will still be a demand for people to go to restaurants and go to social events with human interaction. So what we need to do as a society is reconsider how to reward people for the work they're doing to make sure that we have enough housing for the people who need it in the areas that they need to live. This could be an opportunity for us to improve our system as a society and make the world a better place. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate your time. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think a solution is to the inevitable housing crisis that we are going to see when people lose their jobs but still have rent due at the end of the month. Have a great day.